નમસ્કાર, હું આદર્શ છું. વેલકમ ટુ આદર્શ એજ્યુકેશન સોસાયટી. Welcome students to ninth part of 14th chapter Water of Standard 6th Science. In the last part, we discussed about rain and whatever the water, most of the water that falls on the land as rain, snow or hail, whatever it is, sooner or later goes back to oceans. That is what we discussed. Then after we discussed about the groundwater, that most of the water becomes available to us as groundwater. That is what we discussed. Then after some worrisome problems are there, that groundwater is going down like that. That is also we discussed. But in this part, we will discuss about what if it rains heavily. See, rain is very very important for us, for water, that to be sweet water. But what happens if it rains heavily? Let's discuss about. So the time, duration and amount of rainfall varies from place to place. This is very important. The time, duration and the amount of rainfall varies from place to place. In some parts of the world, it rains throughout the year, while there are places where it rains only for a few days. See, in some parts, in African jungles, we can say, see, every day in the evening there used to rain. Means there is rain every day. It rains every day. But suppose if you go in the Rajasthan, somewhere in the Rajasthan, in the desert areas, where within full year there used to be only 4 to 5 inches of rain, very few rain, or there do not used to be rain for whole year, like that. So it depends. It depends upon the area. It rains throughout the year, while there are places where it rains only for a few days. In our country, especially in our country, most of the rainfall occurs during the monsoon season. That is right. See, we have 3 seasons, isn't it? And in the monsoon season, generally it rains during the monsoon season in our country. Rains brings relief, especially after hot summer days. That is also true. See, when there is April, May, June, too hot days are there, and after when it comes, the rain comes, we get relief from the hot, isn't it? So rain brings relief, especially after hot summer days. The sowing of many crops depend on the arrival of monsoon. See, when it rains in the monsoon season, then after the farmers used to sow, isn't it? That is why the sowing of many crops depends on the arrival of monsoon. In fact, farmers are waiting for the monsoon. And when it rains, then after they used to go to the farm, they will sow the beans, isn't it? However, excess of rainfall may lead to many problems. Excess of rainfall may lead to many problems. See, what we are discussing about the rainfall, okay. But if it rains heavily, means excess of rainfall, then what will happen? Heavy rains may lead to rise in level of water in rivers, lakes and ponds. See, first thing, that heavy rains may lead to rise in level of water, where in rivers, in lakes and ponds. Okay, in fact, all cities, all villages becomes lake, ponds. Why? Because it rains heavily. That is why, in fact, all the cities and taluka place and villages becomes ponds and lake-like, isn't it? Everywhere there is water, and that is too much. The water may then spread over large areas, causing floods. See, when it excesses if it is heavy rain, then it excesses the water level of river, ponds and lake, and then after the water may then spread over the large area, causing flood. It becomes flood condition. The crop fields, forests, villages and cities may get submerged by water. Everywhere, wherever you will see, everywhere there is water, isn't it? That is why the crop fields, the forests, the villages and cities may get submerged by water. You will not be able to recognize that there is village, there is forest, there is field. Everything, everywhere there is water. That means everything is submerged by water. In our country, floods cause extensive damage to crops, domestic animals, property and human life. In our country, the flood cause extensive damage to crops. First of all, there is crops. Then domestic animals and property and human life. During floods, the animals living in the water also get carried away with the waters. See, when there is flood, then flow of the water is too much. Force of the water also too much. And because of that, during floods, the animals living in the water also get carried away with the waters. They often get trapped on land areas and die when flood water recedes. Suppose a fish carried away by the water. Thereafter, if a fish is carried away by the water, and what happens when the water goes down, the level of the water goes down, then once again there will be land, isn't it? And if it is land, if it is not water, then what will happen to that fish? It will die. It requires water. That is why the animals living in the water also get carried away with the water. They often get trapped on land areas and die when flood water recedes. Rains also affect the animals living in the soil. Rains also affect the animals living in the soil. Suppose everywhere there is soil, and if flood condition is there, then the animals in the soil, see, they are not able to be in the water. Why? Because they are land animals. Then it is difficult for them to survive in the flood, in the water, and that is why rains also affect the animals living in the soil. In the soil, deep in the soil. So we know that there is a gap in between. In this soil, there is a gap in between, and that is why through that gap, the animals in the soil used to breathe that air. But if it rains heavily, then instead of that cavities, there is also, instead of the air, there will be water, and that is why the soil animals will get problem. It will get affected. Then what happens if it does not rain for a long period? The second question. See, we discussed about what if it rains heavily. We discussed the problem about what if it rains heavily. But second situation is also there, na? Is that what happens if it does not rain for a long period? Then what will happen? Can you imagine? Okay, do one thing. Try to think over it that if it does not rain for a long period, and in the next part we'll discuss about. Okay, so by this time we are ending this part and we'll discuss what happens if it does not rain for a long period. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Take care of yourselves and we'll meet you in the next session. Thank you.